education and training, of course. And let me just break down the model in these categories for you. And of course, one of the key areas that we have the vulnerable, where the student falling under the vulnerable and the extremely needy category will qualify for the 100% government funding. Same applies to those who will be joining TVET. And of course, under this funding model, for their study, of course, this will be through scholarship and loans that will be provided by the government and the Higher Education Loan Board, that is Helb. Well, we have the needy and, of course, less needy other category. Well, in this category, those from the needy and less needy household, of course, will get 93% government funding, with the student bearing 7% of that. Well, this will be constituted by 53%. That is the government, scholarship, and 40% that is, the loan from the Higher Education Loan Board. Well, this still will apply for those who will join TVET and will receive up to 50% of the government scholarship and 30% of this particular, loan that will be provided by the Higher Education Loan Board, and 20% will be paid by their household. And that is what is basically happening. And this is the discussion, and this is what will be forming the basis of our discussion tonight. And the bone of the contention here is, this particular funding model. And of course, this is where I will dive you in, Pete. Joseph, for this particular one, it has raised questions, of course, serious questions among education stakeholders, even the learners themselves, and they're just wondering the rationale behind this particular model. Well, just this particular model is unpopular to learners. So how can we unpack this in a simple term so that, those who are contesting the rationale behind this can actually understand this particular model?
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me here. I'm here on behalf of my CEO, Charles Rigera. He's out of Nairobi. I think it is the information that people have not been able to get, because this model is actually not changing what was going on so much. Even before this model came, the government was still giving what we call a grant, or what we call capitation. And if I can give an example, a student in KU, where the cost of the program is about 620 then. The government was still giving over 340,000 to KU as a grant. So what has happened this time is that this grant kept on going down because of the fiscal, the money, the budget constraints.
All right.
But now what the president has done, he said, how do we solve this problem where the capitation is going down? Can we enhance funding? And then we delink the former, where we used to say that if you are placed by COOPs, you must be funded by government. And he said, we shall now base our funding on the actual cost of the program plus the level of need.
Okay.
And that now brings me to the categories you're talking about. Okay. However, even with that, nobody is going to be left behind. Even the ones who are less needy, even the ones who are able, so long as they apply and they can prove that they are going to need support. But what is happening is the differentiation in terms of how much of scholarship do you get, how much of loan do you get. So if you are needy and you're extremely needy and vulnerable, of course the scholarship is high, 82%, and you're not supposed to pay anything. In fact, universities are not supposed to charge you anything.
All right.
Even for computer, even what they call admission fee, nothing. Because they were told, give us everything. And then they were told, because government is a bulk purchaser, is buying education for Kenyans, give us a discount of 15%. And actually they accepted, they negotiated, they are giving a discount of 15%.
Okay.
So really nothing is changing. What we have is more enhanced funding and more money to get to the university. In fact, this year alone, we might get another 20 more billion to universities that was not there.
Okay. Yeah. Well, the intention of this might be good. Of course, when you look it on the paper, it seems to be a good funding model. But here, this is a student-based, and the bone of contention here is, the burden that actually the student will have to bear. Take a case study, for example. If you are a medical student and actually, you fall under the, let's say, the less needy, and you get this, 53%, that is from the government scholarship, then you'll have to shoulder the 40. Then of course household, of course, okay, you will get loan from 40 loan from Helb. Then your household will have to pay 7. Well, at the end of the 6 years, the accumulative debt that you will actually have, that you owe the loan, of course, will be close to 1. Others will even pay 2 million. Now, the burden that will shift, of course, to student, that is what is worrying many. And of course, even as you talk about how it will help to bridge the gap, but this is the bone of contention and this is the concern. So how best can we move on this, and how fair is this one?
Talking about the loan burden, I think maybe we need to understand how this model is working. Number one, I said before, the government was funding maybe at allowed if 328, and the cost of the medicine is here in KU is 720. So it means that the government was funding 50% of the cost of the program. And so even this story you hear of half-baked graduates could have started from there.
All right.
Now, in this case, the government is going to fund KU to the tune of 720.
Okay.
All the money you need. So what happens to that? You'll get quality graduates, employable graduates. Our graduates will be very competitive all over the world. Now, when you talk about the loan burden, I do not want to look at it the way you're looking at it. Because this is not a student after graduation.
All right.
He's working like you. So, and then if you look at, assuming you're doing medicine, the loan will be allowed 440 per year.
When you do medicine?
You're doing medicine, like here in KU, the loan every year. Because the rest of it will be a scholarship.
Are you talking about after you're done with your studies?
No. 400 per. If you are you said we talked about less need, isn't it?
Okay.
Yeah. So if you are doing medicine here, the loan given to you will be 420 thereabout.
Okay.
And the rest of it will be a scholarship. And then the parents are going to give about 40,000 shillings per year. Parents who have been paying this in high school, they are paying even more in high school. Actually, so if you look at it like a burden and you're getting quality product, you'd rather get a quality product and then you deal with that. And even if you look at it worldwide, even Tanzania close here, Tanzania education is expensive. They pay to the full cost and you get a loan to the full cost of the program. And for them, they don't have scholarships. It's a loan throughout. So you finish school with about 3 million, 4 million.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, the burden here is what is actually...
Yes, and maybe just to make the burden, you're supposed, our loans, you pay them in about 10 years.
Okay.
We are willing to extend that period so that the quantums are low.
Okay.
And even when we simulate, the highest that you can be able to pay, if you give you 10 years, the highest you can be able to pay is about 8,000 shillings per month.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there is another, issue that has been raised, and this is, concern for many. Well, we talk about just how efficient is this new model. How do you determine that student A student A falls under the category of vulnerable, student B falls under the category of extremely needy? How do you determine that?
When this model was announced by the president, he directed that we use the Helb MTI. The Helb means testing instrument has been used for more than 25 years.
Okay.
And we have tested it. Now, the key thing about that MTI is not like any other means testing instrument.
Right.
The validation. We have connections with NEMIS. NEMIS is MIS for the Ministry of Education. We have connections with NEA, National Employment Authority. We now have a connection with NHIF. We have a connection with the NTSA. Nobody is going to hide. We have KNBS is supporting us. We are now approaching Safaricom, but what we're trying to say is that you cannot cheat your way into this model.
Okay.
We will be able to identify you using so many variables. Actually, this is a multilinear equation with so many variables that we look at. Maybe if the details of those variables may not be important here, but we have like 10 variables that we use, which tell us, which are indicators, in fact, proxy indicators of your level of need. And when we validate those variables with now those institutions that I've mentioned, I can tell you the margin of error is almost zero.
Well, talking about the margin of error here, and of course, a student of history will tell you, history has a way of teaching us about the past. In many instances, we have seen where errors are made, even some being locked out of this particular search process. And the big question that many are asking this time around, just how different will it be, unlike the previous years that we have seen? Even those that deserve this particular opportunity, they miss out, and those that actually don't deserve it get it. That is the big question that many people are asking.
From our analysis, I don't know what data you're using, but we know we have been able to cover very needy students.
All right.
The only problem and the challenge that people don't understand, usually our loans are given on a first come, first given. It's like a supermarket where we sell money. And if you come today, we'll sell it to you. Now, if you come after 2 months and the money is finished, what do we do?
All right.
For example, this year we had quite a big gap where we left out quite a number of students because of budgetary constraints. So what is different this year is that the president has committed money, a lot of money, and even Parliament approved, I think, this week.
All right.
Our budget. So we know we have the funds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hold on to that thought. Of course, we'll be coming, just to take a look on all this, the funding and how sustainable it will be, because we have seen some failing, and we'll talk about that, but that we'll talk about it after this short break.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we take another short break. When we come back, still the discussion is all about the new funding model. See you in a bit.
Technology, science, innovation, ICT and research. These are the ingredients upon which the solutions to the 21st century problems are founded. In a world that is rapidly changing, it's all hands on deck to ensure a balance in all fields of life. Women, young and old, are also in the front line, breaking the glass ceiling, becoming thought leaders in the larger tech space. Not forgetting other societies marginalized. And when the tech Avengers come together, we inch closer to a much safer, efficient, and sustainable world. What we view as a norm in today's advanced world was just an idea, and for nostalgic reasons, we trace back to the iconic days to bring you the retro tech. On Technovation Show, we encapsulate all the pillars of the fourth industrial revolution, decoded in a language, all for one for all. Every Monday at 8:30 as we push the mantra, keep learning something new each and every day. Only on KUTV, a new experience.
What are some of the ways through which you can develop these skills so that you are comfortably fitting into the job?
You have to put yourself in positions where you are uncomfortable in the sense that you're not clear about what to do.
Because I used to work a corporate job before. So when I left, I happened to visit someone's farm around this area.
So this project is called Security Breach Detector and Readiness Familiarize. It is meant to be used to detect, detonate explosives.
We'll tackle all the tough issues, discuss all the weird moments, and hopefully share a few laughs along the way.
Welcome back, and remember, this is the discussion that we are having here, the new funding model that has caused some uproar among education stakeholders. And remember, there is 4 key categories that are being used to determine who deserves what and at what point. That is, there is a vulnerable category. We have the extremely needy, the needy, and the less needy. Remember, under this category, the vulnerable and the extremely needy will get 100% that is fund from the government, and of course the Higher Education Loan Board to further their studies and enjoy the fruit of their hard work. Well, there is another category, that is the needy and the less needy, where the household will have to contribute at least 7%, and of course they will get loan. And this applies across all board. That is for the university and those who will be joining the vocational training, and of course that is under the category of TVET. And of course, who is best to tell us this and break it down to us other than Joseph Ndegwa? This is the lending manager at the Higher Education Loan Board, and this particular discussion still continues here. And Mr. Ndegwa, of course, you mentioned a few things about the criteria that is being used to select this. And when you mention about means of testing instrument, and this is, it's very, where it gets very interesting, where you use the, factors like the background, the gender, and of course the size of the family to determine who gets what and at what point. Well, you remember at first I asked you about, the efficiency of this. When you put into factor these categories, like, so what are you looking into?
Number one, we are looking at the primary data for these students, and by the time we came up with this categorization, we did analysis going back 10 years, 5 years, and we saw how the trend was coming in. And at any time we did analysis, there was always about 30% of people who would always be in the vulnerable and extremely needy category. Previously, they were getting a loan of 50,000 and above. And so then the other people are spread in the other 70%. And apart from the primary data that we are looking at, we are also validating.
All right.
So the other MTIs, like you look at the MTI used by other departments, because it's a commonly used tool, they don't validate. They rely on self-declaration. So I ask you, are you working? And you say, yes, I'm not working. You see, now a person can decide to hide information, but now you hide the information, but we'll get you. If you tell us your parent is a farmer, we will go to NTSA and check what else does this person has. He owns a tractor, he owns a combine harvester, and he's telling us he's a poor person.
All right.
So those contradictions, we are able to remove them using regression analysis on how those variables are relating. Because we will find you here. You are saying you're a farmer, but in another area you own assets. We go to another KLA, we find that maybe you're paying even there's rent or tax from rental income. So those things, we use a formula to come up with a variable that now is your MTI score.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a look at the two model. Now we have this new model, the new funding model, and of course we have the current one, the under differentiated unit of cost. Well, under this, of course, the government, including the scholarship plus loan, the government funded 80% of this. 20, of course, came from Helb, and of course, let's say even household.
Yes.
Well, this looked to be a relief to student, but when you take into account the reason why we are here is because even this one failed to work. Remember, down the line, the government has just at least funded, let's say, the previous one was about 48.11%. And now, this raises another yet very important question. How sustainable is this? And what guarantee do we have that at the end of the day, a student who will apply will actually go on with their education without being interrupted because of lack of fund? Because this is something that we have to put into consideration, because in as much as we talk about the future, we must look at the past and the reason why we are here today.
Talking about sustainability, we have gotten commitments from both the presidency and also the National Treasury that we are going to be funded.
All right.
This year alone, our allocation has doubled.
Okay.
And we have been promised, by the time, maybe by the fifth year, the government will have put in 100 billion. And there is commitment for that.
All right.
We are also going to enhance our recoveries. so that we can also support it, because usually our budget is a mix of our internally generated revenues like loan recoveries and also capitation from government. So we have commitment on that. Especially for the KCC 2022, there is very clear indication that every student will be funded. The money given is per unit, is per person, per cost of their program. You see, the cost of program was costed plus the number of students who are placed by COOPs. So we have that actual figure.
Okay.
So nobody is going to be left behind.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about another very interesting thing to take into account. I'm talking about the fate of private universities and the fate of self-sponsored student, because you mentioned that school fees has not been increased, but I can tell you, when you look at the fee structure, of course, there is every reason to be worried. Well, if you are self-sponsored and you get a fee structure that is a little bit, hiked, and the government, of course, first of all, will not fund those in private. And if you are self-sponsored, then that means you'll have to burden that cost. You'll have to share the burden of that cost. So what is the fate of these two categories of students?
If anybody did KCSE last year, 2020, that is the December KCSE.
All right.
And you're going to a private university, you'll be funded at the cost of that program. And let me just debunk this. Fees has not been increased. How much has private PSSP, the self-sponsored student, been paid? Even here, if you come to do medicine and you're self-sponsored, you are paying the 720.
All right.
So nothing has changed. It's only that the government has said, now, I'll take over this. Now, if you go to a private university, it's good, the highest private university I've seen charging is about 585,000. The ones that are expensive, like Strathmore, Aga Khan, are not there. They are not participating in the COOPs placement. So above 585. So we will be able to fund them, not at the actual program cost, but we will cap it maybe at around 500,000 if you are going to a private university or you are going to a PSSP. But if you are not in the KCC 2028, we'll fund you based on the old funding model. Okay. Because their fee structure remain the same. They are being supported like government sponsored students.
All right.
Yeah. And even those ones that are privately sponsored in the old funding model, they had done their calculation. They knew get 60 from Helb, 60 from my parents, 63 from where? CDF. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, now that we are talking about how to tackle...
private universities have not been left out.
All right.
The only thing that they're not going to get is the scholarship.
The scholarship.
Yeah, but the old grants will continue from University Funding Board.
From University Funding Board.
Yeah, they are the ones giving the scholarship. But we are using one platform because you see of coordination. We're using one platform, and the COOPs and the UF and ourselves are working together to implement this program so that we coordinate.
Will that not, hike the school fees? Because if they're not getting the funding, then they'll be forced to actually, come up with ways of at least accommodating the lost fund. Will that not increase the school fees?
I don't think so, but because at the back of your mind when they were choosing placement at COOPs, they were given 3 warnings.
All right.
In lead, you are choosing a program that will not be funded through a scholarship by government. Do you want to proceed? They said yes. Again, before they submitted, they were told the same thing. Even when they were logging in, they were told the same. So this person who made this choice to go to a private university knew where he'll get the other.
All right. Yeah. Fair enough. Well, if you talked about first come first served, let's say I'm from, let's say, this category. I fall under the category of vulnerable and extremely needy, and maybe I applied late. So what is my fate?
For this model, I said we have received money for every student. So we are not going to lock it out, or there is no late application until the last student applies.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is fair enough. Now, this particular model seems to be, some sort, according to you, that will solve these particular issues. But do you think this is now, the antidote that we have been lacking in the education sector? Because remember, we have been here before, we had we have many reforms from proposals just to try and change how education will be, to actually shape it and have that the desired achievement that we want to take our education to the higher level. Do you think now this is that one gun that we have been waiting for?
This is the killer punch we've been waiting for. Because when you've had KU at the level of the program cost, what you mean is you're transferring enough money to KU to do other things. You'll not be thinking about making money anymore.
Okay.
You'll be thinking about teaching and research.
Okay.
So this is the solution we've been waiting for.
All right.
Yeah.
As we wind up, and this will serve as your parting shot, how does this means testing instrument bring that equity and fairness that you talk about?
Great. Actually, this model is based on equity.
Okay.
Remember, the other model used to be given the same amount of money. You're in the same class, doing the same course, same amount of money by government, is it?
Okay.
But this model is going to look at your vulnerability, your level of need, and you are funded at the same. So two people in the same classroom, one is getting a different amount of money from the other one. So there is a lot of equity, and it is student-centered.
All right.
Yeah. So that's the focus on equity. Previously, we were looking at equality because, like, you look at the DUC was funding people at the same level.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Joseph Degwa Kingori, thank you so much for making time to talk to KUTV. It's always a pleasure to have you. Well, that was a very candid discussion here, and we have had it, and we hope this time around things will fall into perfect place as they are required. Of course, that is why we take another short break. When we come back, we'll be diving into many more stories, including our sports, news.